It's finally 2026. We're moving into a brand new year. Let's check what kind of new Mortal Kombat stuff we have going on. I love Mortal Kombat. What new games are we getting with the franchise this year? Oh, okay, what about Injustice? It feels like it's been a long time since we got a new Injustice game, and, like, I don't really keep up anymore. Maybe there's... Oh. Well, what? I want to play Injustice. I want to play Mortal Kombat. What kind of game can I play? Oh, yeah. I forgot about... But how am I supposed to play this game? It's literally like over a decade old. There's no way I could play it, but what if I just made a sequel? Hey guys, FNAF22 here with our video, and in today's video, we are talking about what if we got a Mortal Kombat versus DC in the world of 2026. Now, this is my very first video of 2026. I'm very hyped to be back. Sorry it took me so long, but we are here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about what if we got a Mortal Kombat versus DC 2. Now, Mortal Kombat vs. DC was a very fun game in my opinion. Obviously, it is very different from your typical Mortal Kombat game, since you can't really show as much blood and gore as you could because it is linked with DC, but still, in the end, it turned out to be a really fun game. So we're going to go over like what the story could look like for a part 2, what the gameplay could look like for a part 2, and of course, what the roster would look like. Now, I kind of wanted to make a story that would be fun to play, but also makes a lot of sense to like these characters in this world. So I'm not just like gonna make a Mortal Kombat game where Mortal Kombat meets DC with all the best heroes and villains and they all fight it out. I want to add an actual story. So here's like a little summary of a story I thought of for this impromptu fake DC versus Mortal Kombat game. What if this game takes place in an alternative timeline between the games of Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat 1? So we're still like in that old classic timeline, but there is a reason we are moving to the new version of the timeline, where our Mortal Kombat heroes randomly end up in the DC universe with the looming threat of Trigon. Now, I want to see Trigon as a main villain. I think that would be really, really cool, and we'll go more in depth with his character and like how he could play and more of that when we talk about the roster. But this is just kind of like a little summary of what the story could look like. I think this would be really, really cool. So now we can mix in Mortal Kombat and DC characters that will fit with this story. I'll give more story and lore like when we get to the roster, but this is kind of the basic story that I'm looking at for this game. Now, for the gameplay, I would want the gameplay to play between a mixture of Mortal Kombat 11 and Injustice 2, just because Mortal Kombat 11 is one of my favorite gameplay versions of the Mortal Kombat franchise in this newer timeline, and of course Injustice 2 is just a better version of the first Injustice, so I would love to see a mix between those. Maybe we get like crushing blows as like a special move. Obviously, I think hero-talities and fatalities, whatever they were from the first Mortal Kombat and DC, would return. You know, I think this game could be amped up a little bit more, especially because nowadays with the DC universe, we're actually getting gore and stuff like that, but I highly doubt that we get, you know, anything else crazy beyond that point. I don't think we get super gory and bloody fatalities, but I do think we get a little bit more gore in this game, which would be really, really cool, and I would love to see some mix-in stuff from Mortal Kombat vs. DC, like the breaking fighting mechanics. I'll be playing it on screen, I can't really describe it, and cool stuff like that. Another thing I want to bring in is the gear system from Mortal Kombat 11, where each character has like 2 to 3 different pieces of gear that you can customize, but I also want to bring in premiere skins, where like Flash could have a reverse Flash skin and stuff like that. I think that would make the game very unique in its gear system, and I think that would be a really, really cool thing to see in a Mortal Kombat versus DC game. Now let's move on to everybody's favorite part of one of these videos, these very fun videos, is the roster. Now I have 24 roster slots. There are 12 Mortal Kombat characters, 12 DC characters, and then we have 8 DLC characters total, with a 4 DC characters and 4 Mortal Kombat characters. So I am very, very hyped to show you guys this roster. I've been working on it for a while, so I'd love to hear your comments down below. But of course, let's start with the basic characters. We've got Scorpion on the Mortal Kombat side. Obviously, he would have to be in this. Then we've got Batman on the DC side. Then we've got Sub-Zero on the Mortal Kombat side. Superman on the DC side, the Thunder God version of Raiden on the Mortal Kombat side, Wonder Woman on the DC side, the OG Mortal Kombat 11 version of Liu Kang, not Fire God Liu Kang, on the Mortal Kombat side. Now I'll explain that here in a little bit. And then of course we've got the Flash. Now these are some of the characters that I feel like have to be in every single Mortal Kombat and or DC game. These are some of the most familiar faces, and this will not be the last time you will see familiar faces. We will still see a lot more come in, with the next Mortal Kombat character being Kitana. Now obviously Kitana has to be in this game. She is one of the most fan favorite Mortal Kombat female characters of all time. Very, very great character. And of course with Kitana we need a very fan favorite character on the DC side. We've got Green Lantern. Now I don't think it really matters which version of Green Lantern you put in this game, but I do think he should have premier skin for the other version that isn't in the game, just like how the Flash should have a premier skin for the Reverse Flash. I'm not going to bring up every single character that should have a premier skin, but I will bring them up when it seems relevant. Next up we have a character that should have been in the very first Mortal Kombat vs. DC game. We've got our boy Johnny Cage, a very fan favorite here in Mortal Kombat's side. I think he is a great character nonetheless. A lot of people love him. I'm very, very surprised he didn't make the cut for the very first game, but with this roster being a lot bigger, he's definitely going to make the cut. And moving on with some obvious picks for the DC side, we've got Aquaman. Now you guys do have to remember a good chunk of this roster is just going to be Mortal Kombat's biggest characters and DC's biggest characters, since that's the whole point of having a crossover game, is seeing the faces of like Scorpion and Batman, Raiden and Superman, Liu Kang and the Flash. I don't know. I mean, that is the biggest point of like a crossover game like this. But like I said, there will still be characters that do revolve around the story, and we will see them here shortly. We just have to get all the big names out of the way. And another character that I was very surprised was left out of Mortal Kombat vs. DC, we've got Melina. Now nowadays, if you leave Melina out of a game, it's not gonna end up very well for you. But we are going to put Melina in this game, as well as another female character that is very loved on the DC side. Of course, we got to have our girl Harley Quinn. This roster is shaping up to be super peak. Now, this is a majority of like the main characters I feel like you have to have in a current Mortal Kombat vs. DC game, but as you can see, there are still a lot of good slots for other characters, as well as our DLC slots. So let's continue and move on with our next character, who's going to kind of just be a bad guy to be beaten up by the DC heroes. We've got Ermac. Now, I think having Ermac in this game would be really, really cool. I went with the Mortal Kombat 1 version because I want a more like deadly, gross, devil-looking Ermac, just because this whole story does revolve around Trigon, who's like the god of hell in DC. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have like a gross, decrypted version, looking version of Ermac that can be on his side and help fight the evil. And another character I can't believe I forgot about for so long on the DC side, we've got our boy Cyborg. I mean, he's pretty much a mainstay here in DC. He is an Injustice character as well as a Justice League character, but I think it'd be really, really cool if he had a storyline, like a side story with Sonya Blade. I think that would be really, really cool. Obviously, Sonya Blade is one of the faces of the female side of Mortal Kombat. I think it'd be really cool if Sonya Blade and Cyborg had a little like mini team up where they could be like a new version of the Special Forces, kind of think of like Sonya Blade and Jax, but instead we're adding DC. And of course, a character that would be really, really fun in this game and a mainstay for the story, her father is the main villain. We got our girl Raven. I think it'd be so cool to have Raven in this game. I think that would be a really cool concept to see Raven in this type of game. I would love to see matchups between like Raven and Kitana, for example, or like Raven and Melina. I feel like that'd be a very underrated battle, but I love Raven as a DC character, and I know a lot of people would love to see her in this game. And going back to that storyline where Sonya and Cyborg are teaming up, who could their enemies be? Well, I've got a really fun and weird pairing with Kano and DC's Deathstroke. I feel like these would both be really fun characters to see in this game. I would love to see how their pairing works against like Sonya and Cyborg. I think that could be a really fun like side plot to the story, and I feel like it's something that makes sense. I feel like this is definitely something that NetherRealm and Warner Bros. Would want to do for their characters, and like I said, I think it could be a really, really fun pairing. Now, I know it feels like we blasted through this roster fast, but a lot of the characters you see here are mainstays with sprinkles of random characters like Raven and Ermac. We've got 4 characters left, 2 Mortal Kombat, 2 DC. Before we move on to the DLC, let's jump in with a very underrated pick, somebody that nobody would expect to see in this game. We've got Serena. Now, I think it'd be really cool to have Mortal Kombat Serena in this game since she is a devil character. I think it'd be really cool if maybe she was like the right-hand woman to Trigon in the story, and then maybe later in the story towards the very end you like defeat her and turn her on the good side, and she joins all the good guys to help fight against Trigon. I think that'd be a really cool concept, and of course, if we're having a story about like hell and the devil, we have to have Serena. Now, I think another villain on the DC side that could turn good later in the story could be our boy, the Joker. Obviously, he has to be in this game. He's one of DC's biggest villains of all time. I would love to see him be a bad guy as well, as in maybe like he's trying to make a deal with Trigon and then Trigon turns on him, causing him to join the good guys and maybe finally working with Batman for like a really cool fight scene. I think that'd be really, really cool to see. But let's move on to our final 2 characters and the 2 main villains of this story. Now, obviously, we can't just have Trigon be the only main villain of this story. Every time we get a collab fighting game like these, we always see multiple main villains. So from the Mortal Kombat side and Trigon's right-hand man, it's going to be our boy, Shang Tsung. Now, I think it'd be really, really cool to see this version of Shang Tsung, the Mortal Kombat 1 version, but this is also one that is traveling from Mortal Kombat 11, and we know, spoilers by the way, in the Mortal Kombat story, Shang Tsung goes from the MK11 timeline to the Mortal Kombat 1 timeline. What if this is the timeline he hits first? What if he hits this Mortal Kombat versus DC timeline first and decides to take a little pit stop to help Trigon defeat his rivals? I think that'd be a really cool concept. I'd love to see what they could do with that, and that is the whole reason that I have Shang Tsung here, as well as I don't want to see Shao Kahn and Darkseid as main villains again, since they were villains in the very first game. And of course, for our final character, and I think somebody who could be unlockable after 100%ing the entire story, we've got the big bad himself. We've got Trigon. I would love to see him in this game. I feel like he is such a cool concept character that we don't see very much of in the DC universe. I would love to see how he plays. I would love to see like his brutalities. I'd love to see everything about this character, and I would really like if he's one of the more gory DC characters, since he's literally like the god of hell. I don't see why not. I think this would be a really cool concept to see, and I would love to see how they portray him as a main villain. So yeah, guys, if I made Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe 2, this would be the main roster of 24 characters. I think it's a pretty good roster. I went back and forth on a lot of these characters, but I feel like a lot of these make sense. I feel like if you're going to have a story about Trigon, you need characters like Raven, but you also need, you know, other main antagonists and other main enemies like Ermac, like Shang Tsung. But I also think in this kind of storyline, you need a side plot, and I think like a Sonya, Cyborg, Kano, and Deathstroke plot would be really cool, just to fit some more heroes and villains in, and it would give like extra depth to the story. I think this would be a really cool section, but of course, with every new fighting game, we need DLC. So how I decided to structure this is 2 DLC packs, 8 characters total, 4 per pack, 2 Mortal Kombat, 2 DC. Let's jump straight in with the headliner of the very first pack, Shao Kahn. Obviously, Shao Kahn would have to be in this game. He's one of the biggest villains in Mortal Kombat history, but the really fun part with DLC is it has to do nothing with the actual game itself. So if you want to put him in as DLC, they don't have to do anything with the story, so we can have Shao Kahn return, but he doesn't need to take over in the story, so we can still let Trigon and Shang Tsung be the main villains. Now, obviously, we have Cyborg, we have Raven. Why not continue the Teen Titans with a younger Robin? I think that'd be really cool to add him as DLC. I know Robin has been in like every single Injustice game. I didn't want him in the base roster just because I don't want an older version of him. I kind of want a younger Teen Titans version of him, so we can see him mix it up with like Cyborg and Raven and kind of give that old like Teen Titans like kind of style. So I decided to put Robin as DLC so his story doesn't inflict with any of the other characters. And our next character is one of Mortal Kombat's most famous female characters, we've got Jade. Now, I feel like a lot of people just love to see Jade in this game. I couldn't find somewhere where she could fit in the story, but I do think she'd be fun, like gameplay-wise, and I would love to see her interactions with some of these other characters, so I decided to still fit her in the game just as DLC. Now, for the final character of this first pack, rounding it out with our second DC character, we've got Starfire. I know she was just DLC in Injustice 2, but who cares? It doesn't matter. Now we've got all the Teen Titans in this game. We've got Cyborg, Robin, Raven, Starfire, but I still think we're missing one more. But of course, we can't kick off the DLC pack. We gotta make people think, oh no, our one favorite guy did not make it into this game. Instead, the leading figure of DLC pack 2 would be Darkseid. I would love to see Darkseid if we get Shao Kahn. I would love to see how they interact with this newer timeline. Maybe we get a premiere skin for one of them that is Dark Kahn from the original Mortal Kombat vs. DC, and I would just love to have, like I said, him and Shao Kahn in this game, but they don't interact with the story at all. Now, our next character for Mortal Kombat is just kind of a fun one and a character I would love to see interact with Aquaman. We've got Rain. We have to get more Mortal Kombat ninjas in this game. I couldn't really figure out who. I kind of thought about putting in like Smoke or Noob Saibot because I really like them gameplay wise, but I feel like Rain would be a really fun character to add as DLC, and I would love to see his interactions with Aquaman. I think that'd be so funny, and I think like Rain would really fit the style of Mortal Kombat vs. DC. I don't know what it is about him. It was just shouting his name in my brain. I have no idea why, but I just wanted Rain in this game. Dude, that was low-key bars. And for our second to last character in actually closing out the Teen Titans, we got our boy Beast Boy. Now, I tried to fit all the Teen Titans in the main roster. I would have loved to see like Robin, Starfire, and Beast Boy all part of the main roster. I just couldn't think of who to take out to make them main roster characters. I feel like it would be easier just to make these three characters DLC characters so we could see them later in the game and we could still have their interactions with the other Teen Titans. I feel like this is fair. I know, 3/4 of the DC DLC are Teen Titans, but I don't think anybody would care. I think people would just be so hyped to have Beast Boy. And finally, the very last character on this roster and our very last DLC character, I thought this would just be a pretty fun one to have in here. We've got Triborg. Now, I think it'd be really cool to get like Cyrax and Sector in a Mortal Kombat vs. DC game, but with obviously limited spots and needing the main like heroes and villains from each franchise, I feel like having a Triborg type character would just make the most sense. You could get him with Cyrax and Sector moves, maybe even Robot Smoke. I feel like that makes the most sense for like the Cyber Initiative to be in one of these games, and I feel like it really rounds out this roster. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll always be notified for when I drop another video. Let me know in the comments down below what are your guys' opinions on this roster. Let me know if you guys would like to see another Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe 2 game. I highly doubt we ever get one, but I do feel like this could be a fun concept and fun roster if we were to ever get one. And of course, it keeps kind of, each universe its own separate things. I know things happen after Injustice 2. I know things happen after MK1. I think this just helps keep everything separate. But like I said, guys, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, as well as let me know if you guys like seeing these roster videos. I think it'd be really fun to make like a what if Mortal Kombat versus Marvel happen. I think that could be really fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Deuces. Also, don't forget my goal for 2026 is to hit 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys could subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, bye.